Government says non-participation in the ongoing U.S.-sponsored civilian-military relations conference here will not hurt Guyana's relations with the United States.
53 Cuban scholarship students graduated last evening at the first ever organized by the Ministry of Public Service.
And evening flights at the Cheddi Jagan International Airport can now resume normal operations with the installation of some 40 portable solar-powered airport runway lights.
The details of these and other stories, judiciary, and of course the latest sporting action in the Diamond Mineral Water and NCN Sport News and more after these. Good evening, I'm Delicia Fletcher.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Thursday, August 14, 2008. Here's what's happening, Paul.
Thanks, Delicia. Government's non-participation in the ongoing U.S.-sponsored civilian-military relations conference here will not hurt Guyana's relations with the United States. This is according to Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon during his post-cabinet media briefing today. Edward Lane reports.
Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon says government is satisfied with the relationship shared over the years with the United States. When asked whether the government has any regrets not participating in the U.S.-sponsored civilian-military relations conference, the Cabinet Secretary said he does not foresee this causing any bitterness between the two countries.
Notwithstanding this temporary problem that arose with the level of involvement by the government in Guyana with the seminar, we don't see it as being formidable enough to in any way negatively influence that relationship.
Dr. Luncheon, during his post-cabinet media briefing last week, said the administration is of the opinion that the program did not reflect an actual input from the government. The U.S. Embassy touted conference wrapped up today at the Grand Coastal Inn on the east coast of Demerara. Prior to the opening of the conference last week, the embassy in a statement said the discussion was to facilitate national and regional public-private partnership process. The embassy added that the initiative seeks to expand the understanding of defense strategy and the role of non-traditional actors in the security policy. They were targeting representatives of regional and national security sectors, Parliament, the British and Canadian High Commissions, regional military leaders and media executives. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Amidst warnings that integration is dissipating in the region, some CARICOM leaders have converged in Trinidad and Tobago to come up with strategic ways of addressing this issue. President Barry Jagdeo, along with heads of CARICOM countries from Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia and Barbados Foreign Minister, are expected to attend the meeting. Pamela Binder reports.
The primary focus of the meeting will be on CARICOM integration and the single economy. The single economy has been heavily criticized by regional academics, stating that CARICOM is making little to no progress in this regard. Speaking at the second CARICOM Regional Institutions Conference, Secretary General Dr. Edwin Carrington noted that integration is not for the faint of heart. He also noted that the region has been criticized for its lack of integration.
And I stress our community has been beset and buffeted by words and deeds from outside and from within its borders. In that regard, in addition to certain foreign commentators, some prominent regional voices and members of the media corps seem to be losing heart and on the verge, if not already predicting, collapse of the integration process.
The Secretary General pointed to the lack of cooperation of the CARICOM countries to sign the Economic Partnership Agreement, as well as the failure to adopt suitable government structures could be the reasons for the claims people are making for the lack of integration. To this, he notes that integration is a vital element that has been looked at since the inception of CARICOM.
The deeper cooperation and collaboration to which I referred last year is, however, obviously sorely needed if we are to withstand the onslaught of negativism, which turns a blind eye to 35 years of achievement gained by the hard toil of many.
According to a Trinidad government release, all the parties involved in this mini-meeting are looking forward to productive discussions. The CARICOM heads hope that the decisions will be beneficial to all the countries involved and ultimately CARICOM. Reporting for NCN News, I am Pamela Binder.
Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon says the next reading of the security bills tabled last week will be late September. a few weeks before the end of the parliamentary recess. The bills were scheduled for the second reading today, but Parliament went into recess after talks between President Barry Jagdeo and opposition leader Robert Corbyn. Edward Lane reports.
Government during last week's sitting of the National Assembly tabled several security-related bills and had requested that the August 10 scheduled recess of Parliament be pushed back to ensure the passing of these bills, but opposition parties have objected to the extension and the Parliament moved into its normal recess.
And that was subsequent to an understanding reached by President Jagdeo and the leader of the opposition, Mr. Corbyn, who had appealed for more time to examine the bills that had been listed for the second reading on August the 14th. Those bills were all intended to contribute to the government's program of reforming criminal legislation and had all been tabled earlier during the session.
Dr. Luncheon noted that these bills will be read the second time in late September, despite the official date for the reconvening of the House is October 10. The bills tabled during that sitting were the Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill, which will facilitate plea bargain and plea agreement, the Criminal Law Procedure Amendment Bill, the Evidence Amendment Bill, and the Telecommunications Amendment Bill. The legislation followed a special Crime and Security Heads of Government conference in Trinidad last April. Guyana is the first CARICOM country to draft and table the legislation. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
And when the news returns, Health Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy says new public health laws to be drafted will make reporting cancer mandatory.
And City Hall refutes claims by vendors that they either spruce up or get closed down. More news later.